what you are listening to now is probably the first anybody ever heard of Manilla Road. This is from a radio show they did back in 1979. So I figured it would be appropriate to start off Radio Free Innsmouth, episode 35, part 1 of our 3-part Manilla Road special with it. So what the hell is a Manilla Road?
You might ask.
Well,
let's find out.
Manilla Road is a band founded in 1977 in Wichita, Kansas by one Mark Shelton, who formed it after he got out of the Marine Corps. Apparently they were sitting around doing acid or something, trying to come up with a name for a band, and they decided that Manilla Road, which was the name of a road that goes in between Kansas and Colorado, also meant Road of Light or some shit.
Excellent!
They come from an early tradition of American heavy metal bands that are from the Heartland rather than the coast. See, the coastal bands all tended to be influenced by new wave of British heavy metal stuff like Iron Maiden, or older British metal stuff like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest. And I'm not saying those weren't influences on Manilla Road, but they also took influences from a lot of like space rock, like Hawkwind and such. In fact, they started out sounding quite a bit like Hawkwind. So they're part of this sort of like Heartland metal thing, along with Ashbury and Legend and Kirathungle, who are from California but have more in common with Manilla Road than they do with any of the other bands in California at the time. Cool thing about these bands is they had a very different take on the sound that wasn't really profitable to record companies, so it's a bit overlooked outside of the metal scene, you know, by major labels and such. But within the metal scene, a lot of these bands, particularly Manilla Road and Kirathungle, were heavily influential. For instance, you got Candlemass were inspired to name a song Dark Are the Veils of Death after a Manilla Road song that was called The Veils of Negative Existence, and Cliff Burton from Metallica cited Manilla Road as a major influence, and he was kind of like Metallica's brain trust back in the 80s. What Manilla Road and other bands of their ilk lacked in regards to slavish adherence to what were musical norms at the time, they make up for it with a very idiosyncratic and inventive mode of songwriting. So as I mentioned earlier, they started out as more of a space rock / hard rock band, but by the time their second album came out, or technically their third, because they did put out a second album that never got released until recently because they were unhappy with it and they thought it wasn't heavy enough. I actually think it's a very good space rock album, but definitely not a metal record. But their actual officially released second album is kind of where they came into their own style of this very strange and inventive way of composition. So this is the title track off that album called Metal. And interestingly enough, the beginning of it isn't very heavy or metal at all. You're seeing some laid-back bar chord work, slightly jazzier style of drumming than would normally be seen in the heavy metal genre. And the verses in the first part of this song are spoken word, so that Hawkwind influence is still there, opining about the virtues of heavy metal. And then when we get to the initial chorus, I say initial because, as we find out later, this song doesn't really follow verse-chorus structure at all. It sort of cleverly inverts it. But the vocals are melodic, but they're still pretty laid back, and we have that same kind of jangly bar chord stuff going on. Not something you'd expect in a song called Metal. The lyrics are also fairly philosophical and deep, kind of about striving for the immortal in a world of temporary pleasures. But as we move on, you think the song's just going to alternate between verses and choruses, but instead, it moves towards a narrative mode of composition, so part A to part B to part C, rather than verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And it also starts to get heavier.
Incisioned mind.
So we're in that same narration, building up to a heavier climax.
Pursues the crime. But love be true, even in hell.
Here it comes.
Brings us metal.
Check out that 70s ass cowbell. That rules. So you can see the fact that this song is a paean to mythic imagination. So here we get the heavy part. And in case you didn't hear it, here it comes again. Wait, what did he say? Oh, okay. Then a gong hit is going to lead us into the faster, semi-thrashy portion of the song. Keep in mind that this is 1982, so this has a lot of psychological and philosophical weight to it that isn't necessarily found in metal at this time outside of Black Sabbath, pretty much. But like I said, this song's a paean to mythic imagination. Metal represents that striving towards the eternal in the face of a collapsing society, hence they will suffer for the souls they sell. But finally, we gotta get to the fast part. That's a bit more metal. I sense a solo coming. So Mark Shelton's solo style is like the rest of the band's music, very idiosyncratic and strange, but also emotional and inventive. Now we're going to hear a little bit of prog rock influence with some stop-start, Rush-style riffing. Prog rock was always a huge part of Manilla Road's sound. But it still rocks very hard. So the metal album was sort of a bridge between Manilla Road's space rock and prog rock past and their more heavy future. So on metal and the album after, we have the same lineup of Rick Fisher on drums, Scott Park on bass, and Mark the Shark, dearly departed Shelton on guitars, and also the principal songwriter. So up next, we have their third album, or fourth depending on how you look at the chronology, but it's kind of their big breakthrough album. But in regards to this album, Manilla Road in general, unfortunately, we're going to have to go into another edition of You know, for as much influence as Brett Stevens has had on my philosophical development, there are a lot of things that I fundamentally disagree with him on, or rather disagree with the people associated with him on. So the deathmetal.org standpoint on Manilla Road is that they're mostly a non-notable band. Their only good song is Necropolis, and it's a complete Iron Maiden or Angel Witch ripoff. This is patently false. Necropolis, of course, is a great song, but for it to be an Iron Maiden ripoff, what's the thing when you think of? You think of Iron Maiden. I can't even talk right now, I'm so mad. Think of Iron Maiden, you think of the double guitar things. Manilla Road has one guitar player. Manilla Road is also a contemporary of Iron Maiden, not a follower. Like I said, they've been around since the mid-70s, same as Iron Maiden. Third of all, Necropolis doesn't even really sound like Iron Maiden. And fourth of all, that's not the only notable Manilla Road song. It might be the hit single, but it's really not even the best thing they wrote. In fact, it's not even the best thing on the Crystal Logic album, although it is a very good song. For my money, the best song on Crystal Logic is actually the Riddle Master, which continues that trend of inventive songwriting that started on metal. So to explain why the song The Riddle Master is so great, first we have to go back to the old Black Sabbath song Iron Man. Remember this intro? So we got that drum marking off the beat, almost like a metronome, and a droning guitar riff following along with it. Famous heavy metal intro. Everybody knows this one. I would hope so. I mean, for fuck's sakes. So the Riddle Master, the Manilla Road song, rather than simply being a rip-off, as the small-minded would term it, is actually a tribute and an extrapolation on this idea of the metronomic drum beat with the drone and guitar, because they add more melody to the drone, like so. See that same kind of metronome beat and the drone? But in the Black Sabbath song, the drone didn't necessarily follow into the riff. In this song, the drone is incorporated into the riff with this melody that sort of dances around that metronome beat. Very hard rocking stuff. So if you remember in the Black Sabbath song Iron Man, the vocals just kind of follow the general structure of the verse riff. See, he's singing the exact same melody as the guitars. Thought I would leave this part in because it's cool. Doesn't really have anything to do with the point I'm trying to make, but whatever. But the fact that rather than discarding the drone as they go into the main riff of the song, they include the drone in that riff, Manilla Road gives the vocals a space to do a bit of counterpoint with the guitars. They have kind of a back and forth, like so. See, he's singing in the spaces between the drones. The lyrics to this song are based on a story by E.C. Hellwell, a man who we will get to more in the third episode of this program. So, a pretty cool songwriting trick here. Singing in the spaces between notes. And now we get to a bit of a chorus that I'm sure any band would be proud of. But because this is Manilla Road and they're crazy, they're not just going to alternate between verses and choruses like that. Instead, after doing that a couple times, the song opens up into new realms. That gong is back. Gotta love gong in metal. Gareth Ungle did it great, and so does Manilla Road. And here we go. Some very proto-thrash riffing. So they're using that same basic melody, but now they've completely altered the cadence to create something new. Great vocals here, too. Very expressive. You can go between this kind of skaldic, nasally, almost whined, and this full-on shit that's great. But that riff at the end there, the that actually presaged what would become the outro section of this song after a couple of solos. So let's have a listen to that for a bit of motivic Wagnerian development. So this is an expansion of that previous kind of staircase riff they put in. Very effective coda for that song and for our discussion of the first three Manilla Road albums. So the reason this episode's a little short is I realized if I went through and picked out every bit of clever songwriting or interesting riffage that happens on the first three Manilla Road albums, we'd be here all day. So I thought I would just give you a couple of really good examples and then tell you, go and get Metal and Crystal Logic and all their other stuff too, but those two especially, and discover for yourself how much cool stuff Manilla Road did. Tune in next week for when Rick Fisher leaves the band and our buddy Randy Thrasher Fox comes in and takes shit to the next level in terms of brutality.